So a few days ago, I was thinking a thought like any other when I suddenly thought about how I did not know how I thought. You catch my drift? And I was very disturbed by this lack of understanding, just naturally. So, after having thought about it for some time on and off now, I think I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you. So I will. Okay, so we can start by defining what it is to think. So thinking is an action. No, more like a process that happens in the mind. A process that happens in the mind, okay. So thinking takes in information and returns something else based off of that input. So you have to know at least a little about something before you can formulate any thoughts on it. So that would be the first step, perception. So thinking is the process of being able to take in information, perception the first step, manipulating it to mean something, which would be the second, and then applying it, the third step. So thinking is a process. Thinking is the process of intelligence. Thinking is the processing system of intelligence. What is intelligence? So Oxford defines intelligence as the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. I find this definition to be incomplete, or at the very least vague. I know what knowledge is, but what is a skill, really? So a skill is kind of like a technique. A technique is like a process, and a process is like an algorithm. So I have a new definition. Intelligence is the ability to acquire knowledge and apply algorithms of the knowledge. So I think this definition, it's a little more complete than Oxford's ones because it details the entire process fully in parts and sequentially, one after the other. So acquiring knowledge, the first step, perception, is you need to see something first. So you can argue that you actually don't need to see anything to think, but that's just because you've seen things before. So you've already done the perception step automatically. Next to do is to manipulate the data. There is the algorithm step. I'm not really sure what happens here. Something happens and you get something else at the end. And that brings us to the final step, which is the application. So the application is basically, now that you've seen what you've seen, you know what it means, and now you know what to do. Now this is basically describing thinking. And so now, new definition, intelligence is the ability to think. I will now cue the transition. This means something. This means that these super duper ultra mega abstract systems can be made into something concrete. Concrete, right? And tangible. And so I did. And then it was done. Welcome to the game. What am I playing? You. No way. Just kidding. I'm playing the red team. You can see squares on the right? Yeah, that's me. I will now explain the game. Death. Now you know what the game is about. I will explain how the game works. So each of the squares on the right, red squares, and the one orange square, those are my troops. And so troops have 4 basic statistics. They have their health, they have their defense, they have their attack, and they have their action points. So, action points are how many actions your troop can maximally do every turn. Moving a tile, attacking, everything costs at least 1 action point. Next is your health. Health is a number. If it reaches 0, that troop goes away forever. Okay, so attack is also a number, and it determines the number of attacking dice you will have in battles. If you have 1 attack, you'll roll 1 die of attack. If you have 3 attack, you'll roll 3 die of attack. Defense works exactly like attack, but is for your defense. Okay, I will go over the abilities. Ford. Troops with the Ford ability can go over the blue lines you see on the map. Those are rivers. Infantry has the Ford ability. Entrench. Number 2, entrench. Troops with the entrench can dig themselves in and double their defense. Infantry has entrench. Armored. Armored negates damage. Even if your enemy rolls higher than you do, you don't take damage. That's what armored does. Tanks have armored. Then is piercing. Piercing negates armored. That's the only thing it does. Tanks also have piercing, so tanks can hurt each other. Then lastly is breakthrough. Breakthrough allows a unit to ignore the field of control of other units and keep moving. I'll get back to the field of control thing a little later. Just know that tanks have it. Now it's time to explain combat. So when 2 troops fight, they will both roll for defense and attack. They then compare their attack to the enemy's defense to check if their attack is larger, which determines who takes damage. If both troops roll low on attack and high on defense, neither will take damage. If both troops roll high on attack and low on defense, they will both take damage. This changes the dynamic of fighting. A troop with a high attack stat and a low defense stat isn't better at attacking than defending. It's going to hit you with that high attack whether it's defending or not. And a troop with high defense and low attack isn't any better at defending than it is attacking, because it's going to be hard to kill and is going to get many chances to deal damage to you over many battles. Troops with high attack basically put in their worth quickly, and troops with low attack and high defense put in their worth very slowly. Troops with high attack burn out, troops with low attack and high defense kind of fizzle. Positioning also affects combat. There are the surround and ambush debuffs. If a troop is surrounded on 2 or more sides, like there's 2 enemy units that are next to it, it suffers a penalty. When it gets into battle, its defense and attack are divided by however many sides it's surrounded on. So a troop that's surrounded on 2 sides is actually 4 times less effective in battle. There's this like squaring effect. And a troop that's surrounded on 3 sides is 9 times less effective in battle. That's a lot. Another thing about surrounding is that a troop surrounded on 2 or more sides loses the armored ability. So that's how infantry, which outnumber tanks, can still fight tanks. Then is ambushing. Ambushing basically works with the like the fog of war system. You see how my troops don't see their troops? My red troops don't see the blue troops. The blue troops are way on the left. And so there are 2 types of ambush: offensively ambushing and defensively ambushing. To offensively ambush somebody, you just need a troop that the enemy didn't see, and then you attack them with that troop. You will ambush the enemy, and ambushing an enemy is basically like surrounding them on 2 sides. It is equivalent. And the other way to ambush somebody is if they move right next to one of your units that they didn't see. You ambush the unit that just moved there. Now I have to explain the aforementioned field of control. Basically, if a unit moves next to an enemy unit, it is intercepted and cannot move again unless it attacks the unit. This is basically to stop you from just running past your enemies. Tanks, however, can ignore this. Tanks can just barge on right through, unless they are being intercepted by other tanks, which have the piercing ability. I will now move. Yeah, I'm moving. As you see, my guys are moving. And now it's time for the special guest. I am not playing right now. In fact, nobody is. The AI is. I made an AI that can play my game. Now, I'm probably running out of time because, well, 8 minutes is just not a lot of time. So, bye.